And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. I'm Mike Harrison. It's my privilege to be joining you today. And yes, we are always working on your financial freedom. As always, if you miss any part of the show, you can find us on our YouTube channel, obviously the website, lifestylesunlimited.com, and the podcast app on your smartphone, my favorite way to listen. Please subscribe. It's free to subscribe to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. And if you find the show, you like the show, you find it informative, please do me a favor and share the show with a friend. My email address is askmike@luinc.com. Last week, I had a question from one of our listeners. I didn't get through the entirety of the question. And if you missed that show, it's part one to this show. You can go back and find us on the podcast app or on the website. But that question relates to growing net operating income and ultimately growing the value of an apartment investment, a multifamily investment that we participate in. And it led to a lot of background. It led to a lot of thought that coincides with just how we created these strategies to grow net operating income and ultimately grow the value. Ultimately, what I want you to understand is that Lifestyles Unlimited is so different from any other real estate education group that you'll find in the country today. Why? Because we are an education group. We're not just an investment group. In fact, you don't invest with Lifestyles Unlimited, but you can form a relationship with our lead investors and you can invest with those folks. But we focus on education, mentoring, and operations. I will tell you right now, you can go online and you can Google apartment investing and you can find any number of groups where you can participate in multifamily apartment investing. Those groups don't focus on education and operations. Basically, what they're going to say is, are you accredited? Yes or no? If yes, then send a check and feel free to participate in any of these investments that we have, that we are offering. That's where we're different. At Lifestyles Unlimited, we are an operations group. We start with education. That's the difference. I personally had no idea. I knew there was opportunity in real estate when I began, and I began on my own, just kind of winging it, trying to figure it out. I knew there was something there that was better than what I had been doing, the 401k program that they commit to us at a very young age and teach us to participate in as the only way to really have a quality retirement. Well, I'm here to tell you, my friends, there is a better way. And it was only after that education piece that I really became an effective real estate investor. Do you see the difference? It was the education piece that changed everything for me. And I had no idea, honestly, getting into it, just what all was involved. Today, I can read and understand a private placement memorandum. I can look at a single-family property that's for sale, and in just a few minutes, I can tell you if that will make a good rental home investment. I can look at it and analyze it. I can understand what will the cash flow be? What will the rehab expense be of that property to get it into quality shape for a quality resident to come in and provide? We give them a lease and they can live there. What is the cash flow annually versus my out-of-pocket, right? I'm going to come out of pocket so much, let's say $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. I want to analyze that cash flow to what percentage is that? And that percentage needs to satisfy my strategy. Am I going to make a 15% return, a 20% return, a 7% return? What is it on this particular property? Is there an equity capture? And what is that equity capture in comparison to my out-of-pocket investments? Very, very important. I understand how to evaluate multifamily real estate investments. I understand how to pick the ones that suit my strategy. Why? because I got educated first. That is ultimately the huge difference, and it's that education piece that allows us to come up with these strategies based on our listener's question from last week to increase that net operating income and ultimately the value of the property. And that question I got last week's from Frank. He says, Mike, I was listening to your show. You mentioned there's several ways to improve the value and make more money on an apartment investment. I understand the part about raising rents. Can you share the other ways to increase the value? What I got into on that show was several strategies and several different ways that we have, and I was only able to share a few of those. But what's interesting, many apartment owners out there are just everyday mom and pop people just like us. Yes, there's the huge corporations that own thousands of apartment communities, but the majority of people that own apartment communities are just everyday people. Now, I thought there was only one way to make money in real estate investing. I was one of those people outside that was not effectively educated. My first rental home that I purchased prior to my membership in Lifestyles Unlimited, prior to my education piece, I thought the only way to make money was really in the rental piece. And over time, you're able to raise the rents and therefore make more money. When I started, my goal was to buy one rental property, pay it off over several years, and then buy another property, all cash. And the whole concept was by the time I was 60 or 65, I would have 8 or more paid for rental homes. That was my strategy. I thought if the rent is, let's say, $1,500 a month on average, I figured I'd have a little less than $15,000 per year. And I thought 8 to 10 of those properties would be what I needed for retirement. That was my thought process. My belief was that you made money in real estate essentially off the rents. Does that sound familiar? Boy, was I dumb. I had no earthly idea of the following concepts. I had no earthly idea what equity capture even was. I'd never even heard of it. I'd never even thought of it. I never understood the concept prior to my education at Lifestyles Unlimited. Mortgage pay down? Well, I paid cash for my rental home. Why? My model viewed mortgage as a risk. Why? I'll spell it out for you. DAVERAMSEY. Boy, was I dumb. Imagine having a mortgage that you don't pay for as the owner, that the renter pays for. The renter's paying the mortgage. I didn't really understand the concept of mortgage pay down. I was dumb. Appreciation. Sure, I understood the concept, but in my original model, I was never going to take advantage of the appreciation. I was a buy and hold. Remember, I wanted 8 to 10 properties by the time I was ready to retire at 60 to 65, and I was never going to sell those properties, and those properties were going to provide what I needed or what I thought I needed in retirement. I never was going to take advantage of the appreciation. I never even thought about the concept of refinancing that property and pulling that money out and buying more properties. That was all prior to my education. Tax advantages, namely depreciation. Before Lifestyles Unlimited, I did not consider tax advantages. I did my own taxes. I paid cash for the home, which meant the majority of that rental income in an all paid for rental property is taxable. I didn't understand the concept of depreciation. I just thought that's how things worked. I'm here to tell you I was dumb. And I know that's a harsh word, but I was dumb. I was not educated. But let me ask you a question. How many millions of people out there that are real estate investors see that real estate model in exactly the same way I did? I promise you it's a lot of people. Hundreds of thousands of people see it that way, if not millions of people see it that way. Why? Because they're not fully educated as to the strategies and how to really effectively make this work. You know what else reinforced my concept that I made money by increasing the rent or in the rents only? Well, I was a student of the stock market. I was a stock market investor prior to my real estate investing path. And so I viewed that model very similarly. I'll explain it on the other side.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
Want to retire in 5 years or less? You can do it. Just like Lifestyles Unlimited member Lisa.
So we started passively. It was on vacation is when we realized we really need to take the plunge and be more active in this. Just because I'm an educator, I wanted to really know what I was doing. So it was just education on my part is really big and knowledge. And I'm like, well, I could do that.
Go to GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. Enter code 2024. Join and learn for just $297 with Lifestyles Unlimited.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Mike Harrison. I was talking about my real estate investing experience prior to becoming a member of Lifestyles Unlimited and prior to being fully educated as to just how to do real estate investing properly. I was winging it on my own, and the concepts that I utilized in my strategy were concepts that I carried over from essentially what I had learned as a stock market investor, as a corporate employee in corporate America for decades. And when I decided to invest in real estate, I just took what I figured was the approach, what the understanding of real estate investing and why I invest in real estate investing. And I was so far, I was 180 degrees away from the effective way to invest in real estate. And I had concepts that had been reinforced throughout my life that I applied those concepts to real estate investing, and that was my model. I thought you made money by buying and holding the property, having a paid-off rental property, and living off the rents in retirement. That was my model. Another thing that reinforced this model was that I was a student of the stock market. That was my retirement vehicle prior to investing in real estate. I was living in that scrimp and save, feed the 401k model. Ultimately, I realized this model's broken, and I left the flock, right? I was the sheep that said, no, I'm not going with you. I am going a different direction. But when I went that different direction, I applied what I learned as a stock market investor to real estate. How do you make money in the stock market? You buy a stock or a mutual fund for one price, you wait some more, you wait a little longer, and then ultimately you sell that mutual fund or that stock for a higher price. And the difference between what you bought it for and what you sold it for, the delta, that's your gain. That was the model I participated in for decades. So it was only natural that I applied those same concepts to real estate when I purchased my first rental property. That's how I thought you made the money. But my overall point is how powerful and effective education can be. Not any education, an effective education. And Lifestyles Unlimited, for all intents and purposes, changed my life. When I started investing prior to Lifestyles Unlimited, I didn't have a map. What's a map? A map tells you how to go from point A to point B the quickest route possible. Lifestyles Unlimited provided that map for me. Prior to Lifestyles Unlimited, I was metaphorically wandering around aimlessly. And while wandering, I was reinforcing my false beliefs on how to make money in real estate. I was completely off base. I was 100% wrong, but my education changed all that. If you're hearing me now and you want to invest in real estate or are considering to invest in real estate, or maybe you're a real estate investor and you don't have that education piece, do yourself a favor. Don't wing it like I did. Whether it's Lifestyles Unlimited or another education group, get educated effectively. If you want to see our group, if you'd like to join our group, you can go to GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. It's only $249 to join. My friends, I took my family out for dinner the other night, my mother-in-law out for dinner. Dinner costs more than $249. It was a nice dinner, don't get me wrong, but $249 for an effective education to change your life in real estate investing, that's a small price to pay. That is nothing, I'm telling you right now. Note from our listener from last week's show, he asked me about how different ways to grow net operating income, therefore the value of the property. There are numerous ways, and I hit some of those last week on how to do that. And I learned that through education here at Lifestyles Unlimited. The ones I covered last week from his question was raise the rent. And not all of these sound simple, but there is a process to implementation. But obviously raise the rents, reduce vacancy, reduce loss to lease. Those are different. Reduce bad debt. Add revenue producing units, for instance, converting a vacant, let's just say maintenance space into an additional unit. You can implement RUBS, which is a resident utility billing system. You can retain security deposits, enforce your lease, pet fees, pet deposits, pet rent. You can upgrade the utility room, in-unit laundry, equipment rental fees. If that unit has the space for a washer and dryer, yet that resident doesn't have a washer and dryer, you can rent a washer and dryer to that resident. I go through all that in last week's show. If you missed it, you can find it at the website or on the podcast app. Yes, eviction fees, late fees, application fees. These are things that groups outside of Lifestyles Unlimited don't enforce. They sound very simple, but just coming in with a proper strategy and enforcing those is going to grow the value of that apartment community. Now, let's continue on with some other ways to improve the value of the apartment community. These we have learned over the years. Let's say you buy an older property where they have window unit ACs, right? A lot of properties were built decades ago, and believe it or not, there was no AC put in with those, right? I guess AC became popular in the 60s and 70s. It wasn't always a fact, but if you buy an older property that has window units, and let's say that property is built such that you can put individual ACs in each unit, that is a great way. If you can accomplish it, it's rare, but it is possible. You can build it into your CapEx when you purchase these older properties. I've seen it done. It's a huge play when you accomplish that, right? A window unit is terrible. It's potentially a hazard in many ways. They're always breaking down. There's leaks involved. If you can put individual AC in those units and provide that in your rehab project of the property, it's incredible. It will bring the value of that property. You can change the position of a property. You might have a C-type property, and by adding ACs, individual air conditioning for each of those units, you might be able to move that asset. You might be able to make it a C+ or a B- property. Why? Because it's a more desirable unit. You want to have a product that is appealing to the most people possible. If you have an apartment community and it doesn't have air conditioning or it only has window units, there's only a small group of people that would be willing to lease those units. So if you can add AC to those units, you're going to change the entire position of that property and you're going to grow value in that property. That's just one strategy. Here's another strategy: pest control fees. Why would you have pest control fees? Well, you want to get pest control done on the property. If you leave it up to the resident, I'm here to tell you, and I've seen it, some residents don't do pest control. They don't care. They'll live in that situation. I know it's gross, but people do it. So if you have a property, have pest control and have pest control fees, biannually, quarterly, what have you. Where did we learn these strategies? Lifestyles Unlimited teaches ownership operations. That's what's so different about us. Education is that piece. We insist that you become educated, and we work together, and we share best practices with one another. That's what makes us different. These other groups outside of Lifestyles Unlimited, all they care about is you sending them a check. Are you accredited? Do you want to invest in real estate? Yes or no? Send us a check. That's all they care about. And some of those are not doing so well right now. I spent some time last night reading about another one where it was a big loss unfortunately, for the investors. I feel bad for those folks. But the difference is our lead investors focus on operations. It's all about operations. It's all about providing a clean, functional, great place to live, having a product that is desirable to the most amount of people out there. And if you have that product and it's superior to the other multifamily apartment communities in the area, you're going to do better you're going to succeed. But you have to think, you have to be creative, you have to implement various strategies. One of those strategies, I'm invested in a property right now, and it provides short-term leases for traveling employees. Maybe you've heard the term traveling nurse out there. A lot of hospitals will contract out with these traveling nurses, and they pay them. Well, those folks need a great place to live. Typically, they want a short-term lease, and I'm at a property that's right next to a hospital, and they realize that need, and they provide some of those units for those traveling employees. It's excellent. You can charge a higher rent, provide a good product. Those folks will stay in there typically 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, sometimes longer. But you're filling a need, right? You're filling a niche. The oil business does a lot of this. They have some contract employees that may need to be at a certain place for a certain long amount of time, and these folks don't want to stay in one of those extended stay hotels. I did that one time when I got transferred from corporate America. I lived 3 months in an extended stay. It's no fun. I would have much rather had a short-term lease at a great apartment community. It would have been better. I got through it, but our lead investors have identified at this particular property that niche, that need, and they're fulfilling that need, and it's great. It works out very well. Along those same lines, corporate units. Typically, these people may want a fully furnished unit, and so you can fully furnish it and charge a little bit more for these traveling corporate employees that stay extended amounts of time in these areas. So the rent is a little higher. You're providing a quality place for these folks to live. If you do it right, I will tell you, good news will travel. They will share. And again, this property that I'm in, I believe they have 3 or 4 of these units dedicated to these traveling professionals. It works out nicely. Another strategy, trash valet. When my wife and I were young, she was a property manager at an apartment community, and they had a trash valet service where essentially the resident would put the trash out on the front step in a bag, and it was a certain day, let's say Tuesday or Thursday, and you would have one of your maintenance team come along and grab all that. Well, if you're going to offer that service, why not charge for that service? Not everybody may want to participate in it. They may want to take their own trash down to the dumpster. I promise you, there's other folks that will say, you know what? I like that. I want to participate in that. And if that's $10 a month for trash service or $15 a month, yes, I'd like to do that. So the more services you can offer your residents, the more value that is to the resident. Again, you're running a business. You're providing a value to that resident. That resident agrees to pay for that additional value. They enjoy it. What are you doing? You're increasing cash flow on that multifamily property. Along this same line, covered parking fees. This only works if you have limited amount of covered parking. If every space has covered parking at your apartment community, the residents aren't going to see that as a value. So if you have a property and maybe there's no covered parking, if you go ahead and invest and maybe you make 20, 30 spots for people that want covered parking, then you can charge parking fees for those spots. It's a lifestyle accommodation for residents. Many people will seek covered parking when they're looking for a place to live. If you can offer it on your property, fantastic. It's just another way to, again, continue growing that cash flow of the property. But what are you doing? You're providing a service for somebody that wants that service. On-site storage rentals. If you can find a property that has on-site storage rentals, that's excellent if everything works out. Our founder, Dale Walmsley, has a saying, and I love this saying. In fact, my wife and I said it just the other day. You don't own stuff. Stuff owns you. People may be downsizing from a larger house, and they don't want to sell all their stuff. They're going to store it somewhere. If you can offer those storage rentals on the property, fantastic. If you don't have that, these folks are going to go find a storage place. We all know how popular these storage places are. They're on every corner. You're driving today, you'll see 20 of them. They're everywhere. If you can do that on your property, fantastic. It's another profit center for the property. People will choose to utilize storage units. It's a way of life. So if you can offer that service, good for you. Along those same lines, if you have a property and it's got a limited number of garages. And again, when my wife and I were young and she was managing a property, there were garages there. There weren't garages for everybody. If you wanted a garage, I think it was an additional $60 a month, something like that, then you can choose to rent that additional garage. We did so. We did that. A lot of people will do that. A lot of people, again, will seek apartment communities that have garage parking. So if you have a limited number of garage spaces, you can charge for those spaces. Extra vehicle parking fees. A lot of these older properties don't have a lot of parking, not a lot at all. I guess it was just back in the day when many people, their family household had only one car. Well, today, typically the couple, she's got a car, he's got a car, they've got two cars. If you've got limited parking there, you can charge extra vehicle property fees. I've seen it. I've walked properties where I've seen a Corvette and a very nice, I think it was a Camaro, and this guy had both of those, and he utilized the covered parking, and he wanted the extra space. That's his lifestyle, and he was happy to have that opportunity to live in an apartment community that provided that. Clubhouse rental fees. Why not? Why not rent out the clubhouse? People want to have gatherings or get-togethers. Allow them to rent a nice space where they can have that birthday party or that anniversary party or celebrate whatever they're celebrating in their life. You've got a nice clubhouse. Now, you have to have a nice product. You've got to make that a great clubhouse. You've got to make it a desirable space that somebody would say, you know what, we're having a party next Saturday, and we're going to rent out this space and celebrate our special occasion here. So if you've got a great clubhouse, you can take advantage of those clubhouse rental fees. Let me hit on another one. Variable marketing and pricing. And this is based on unit location. Some people may want to specifically be at a certain place in the property and there's not a lot of units by that property. For instance, maybe some folks want to be by the pool. Or contrarily, maybe some people don't want to be the pool. They may want to be next to the playground or not next to the playground. You can get creative. It depends on your property's layout. So the strategy is all about how the property is laid out. There may be a busy street on one side of the property, and maybe those units rent for a little less than some units that are in a more of a quiet area. People want choices, and they will pay different amounts based on that. If you can offer that, again, you're offering a service. This works if you have high demand and high occupancy. And how do you get there? Well, I've been talking about it for the last two shows. You provide a superior product to the most amount of people. If you've got high demand and high occupancy, then you can have variable marketing and variable pricing based on unit locations. Along those same lines, you can have an upgraded appliance package, right? You can have a standard appliance package. You can have a stainless appliance package. You can have a premium appliance package. It's all based on the stove, the dishwasher, the refrigerator. Again, people will pay for the premium. You've got to test it out. If all your units are premium, this strategy doesn't work. But if you've got a basic and a premium package, you can offer that, again, on a property that's got high demand and high occupancy. You can have you can have that same strategy based on an amenity package, right? Maybe you sell an amenity package and you've got a clubhouse and a car wash and a dog wash and all that stuff. You can charge for that. But as we go through it, I want you to understand education's the piece, and it's not the money, it's the lifestyle. Have a great week.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the host, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.